Fishing like a local isn't just about catching fish. It's about connecting with the environment and the people who call it home. It's about hearing the stories and traditions that have been passed down for generations and sharing unforgettable moments with the people you meet along the way. Fishing like a local is having an experience that stays with you forever. And with Fishing Booker, you can experience it too, no matter where you are. Discover your next adventure on Fishing Booker.
How do you feel great on vacation? Like really good? Easy. You go to Aruba. You'll spend your time relaxing on cool white sand beaches and floating in healing blue water. You'll immerse yourself in natural wonder and find your center on an island where things move at your speed. You won't just feel great, you'll feel relaxed, renewed, and ready for life. That's the Aruba effect. Plan your trip at Aruba.com.
Hello and welcome to the Publicly Challenged Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Oswald, and I hope you join me on my quest for knowledge to become a better public land hunter, angler, and forager. Stick with this and who knows, maybe we will learn something together.
Welcome to the Publicly Challenged Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Clay Bowers, and I'm with Luke Oswald, and we're joined today by Jess Starwood, the amazing forager from California and also Arizona. And I've hung out with her a few times. She's super cool, super knowledgeable. Tell us about yourself, Jess. What got you into this?
Well, I got into foraging through herbalism, actually. So I have a master's degree in herbal medicine, and that path led me to, I was also getting a master's in holistic nutrition. And it, I just was really interested in where our food comes from and getting closer to the source, getting closer to, real food. So that was kind of what got me into it. And then I have an obsession about mushrooms and all the things that they can do for us, as well as just the act of getting us out into the forest with our friends is kind of I think one of the best things out there.
So let's rewind it a little bit, Jess. So you said degree in clinical herbalism and holistic nutrition. What drove you towards that? Because that always is pretty fascinating to me, because a lot of times you hear about like foragers who learned about these benefits and then they're like, oh, hey, I'm going to get a degree in herbalism. This is so awesome. I'm going to help people, but they're already foraging. You went the other way and decided to get into that. So let's talk about that a little bit and what led you towards that journey and how it progressed.
Well, that's interesting. A little bit backwards. I've always been, I love school. I love science. I love all that. And, my undergrad was in graphic design. So I had a completely different career, different way of life before all this. And it was when my first daughter was born, and everything clicked, and realized that I wasn't living the life that I wanted to provide for my daughters. And I wanted to eat healthier. I wanted to be healthier. I wanted to provide something better for them. So raising them, and living in the middle of suburbia, I didn't really have much other than a garden to really explore with. So, but I had an internet connection and a lot of time on my hands during the day as a stay-at-home mom, and pursued a degree. And then once, things got a little tricky with the marriage, but eventually found myself in the forest.
Nice. A little bit of nature therapy.
It saved my life. It literally saved my life.
Jess, you are so good at finding mushrooms, and we have talked about this in person, because you you told me, and I agreed with you, that California is such a hard place to learn mushrooms that like you're like on this different level. So I remember being with you and you finding there's these like just lumps in the ground that were almost imperceptible. You're like, there's mushrooms. And we
Yeah.
found what are the rose blushers? Is that what those were?
The Amanita, the blushers, I believe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That was the Amanita novanupta where they
Yeah.
were like right in the hillside, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yep, right there.
Yeah. So what is your experience then finding mushrooms like in other parts of the country? Do you just it's easy. I can't believe these.
Well, let me clarify first that I'm in Southern California. Northern California is a completely different story. So even just going up there, it's like, mushrooms are everywhere. But down here, it's very dry. We live practically in a desert, and you have to be really, really good at knowing where they are and finding them, knowing where the moisture is, and where it's going to be, hidden or, so it's, going to a different place. It's like, oh, you guys have it so easy. Anywhere else, it's like you practically walk down the street and kicking over mushrooms, where out here, people don't even know that mushrooms exist in our region,
So how did you get so good at that though?
Walking around a lot.
Walking around a lot?
Just being out there all the time and paying attention, and kind of like what was said earlier was, nature therapy. I really needed to be outside, and spent most of my time, all my free time, just checking stuff out and looking for whatever I could find, and eventually I keyed in on the clues, and it's not that difficult if you're just out there.
So what were you seeking first, Jess? Like, was there specific mushrooms where you read about them or learned about them and you're like, oh, I need to find these? Or was it just, hey, let's stroll through and find something and see where this journey takes us?
At first it was, ooh, look, it's a mushroom. That's really cool. But that didn't last long, because I started to learn about morels and chanterelles, and I'm like, I really need to find these. So that became my quest, and was able to. It took some years. It definitely took some years of, dry seasons or, just bad luck. But finally cracked the code, and I've got some really good chanterelle and morel spots that I will not give up.
So when you were looking for morels, were you looking for burn morels at first and kind of follow? I mean, California does have a lot of fires, so it would make sense to follow the burns in the next season and look for them.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really great way to do it. And yeah, I've got it down pretty good to where if I know if there's a wildfire, I know to spot them. I'll be there next spring. Yeah.
I wonder if any mushroom hunter in California has ever intentionally set fire for morel purposes.
That would be sad that if that was the case. But I do see on the forums on Facebook and stuff like, oh, bummer, and there's a fire, but we'll be there in the spring.
Yeah, and that is predominantly a factor of a lot of the mustard greens, right? They start a lot of the fires. Yeah.
Talk more about this.
So we have a kind of a problem with an invasive species of all the different wild mustard, like black mustard and field mustard. And after a fire comes through and just scrapes the landscape clean, the mustard just takes over and fills in before it's so fast growing. It's taking up all the resources from the native plants, so they can't get established. So most of our hillsides that have burned in the past are just rolling hills of mustard, and those then become extremely flammable and repeats the cycle over and over again, not letting native plants get back into their habitat.
Wow.
So Luke, they're like they get what 6 feet tall sometimes.
Yeah, the black mustard is 6 to 10 feet tall, 8 feet tall. They're really, really tall, and they're just tinder. They're so brittle and yeah, they go up real fast.
Yeah, and I was who was it we were just talking to, Luke?
We were talking to Lorenzo, which you and I both said, it's kind of funny. You'd think somebody would try and find this lucrative enterprise to utilize all this just readily available mustard, but
the seeds.
I've been teaching for over 10 years now here, and I bring this up all the time to my classes. And I'm in LA basically, and people, they're like, oh yeah, we could make mustard and sell it. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs out here, but it has yet to take off, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to do it.
Let's do it, Clay.
We start a mustard brand.
Let's rape the land of all the mustard.
Do you harvest any of those mustard greens, Jess?
I do actually. Yeah, I'm always collecting mustard, and I try to serve those as often as I possibly can in my classes, just to spread awareness about them, and that instead of propagate or allowing them to propagate, use them, get them out of their life cycle, use the seeds before they get set, use the greens before they even flower, or use the flowers, because those are pretty tasty too. Most of the whole plant is edible, a little bit tough and stringy in the stems and roots, but everything else, cook it up, it's really good.
So is that something you'd want to like ferment or something to try and soften it up?
You could. Yeah, you could ferment it. But I find that you mean the stems and roots? Yeah. My friend Pascal Baudard, I know he does that. And he'll use it more for flavor, I think. As far as like actually eating them, I think they're just a little bit too tough. But and be good compost.
Oh yeah. So Jess, what sort of wild edibles are you getting into right now? Today we are recording this on November 9th. So
right now, well, I just got back from collecting a ton of acorns. So acorns are falling right now, and that's keeping me really busy. Because I am just about out of my last year's store of acorn flour. And it usually lasts me all year for classes and events and dinners. But yeah, that's quite crucial at the moment. And luckily we have tons and tons of oak trees out here.
What species are you collecting?
All sorts. Today I was collecting scrub oak, and Quercus. I'm gonna mess up the name.
Of course, Clay. You're just collecting Quercuses, okay?
Well, hey, it does matter. It does matter in California, and I'm sure Jess would tell you that depending on your oak out there, it could be higher in tannins, lower in tannins. They have oaks that are like 2 inches long.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you could still utilize any type of acorn. Let's not be acorn snobs here, Clay.
Well, I am somewhat of an acorn snob. I will interject that. A couple of years ago, I did go through and collect as many of our native species as I possibly could to do a taste test of which ones that I liked better, which ones were easier to process. And I definitely came across some winners and favorites and ones that I would prefer to collect than as opposed to others. So
what was the best?
The best tasting one was the California Black Oak.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that in the white oak group?
That is a red oak.
Just kidding.
No, all good. I've been teaching oak classes all last couple weeks. So.
Okay, so is it Quercus ilicifolia?
No.
Oh, darn. Well, I had my fancy smart device and I just looked up and must be another scrub oak.
It's Quercus berberidifolia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a mouthful.
No, yes, it's not one of those ones that roll off the tongue like Quercus lobata or or Quercus chrysolepsis.
Yeah. So have you ever collected tan oaks?
No, I haven't. That has been on my list of, because they grow a little bit farther north of me, and I usually don't go up north until a little bit later in the season for mushrooms. So I'm always like crossing paths with the tan oak season, unfortunately.
All right, so you guys, you're gonna have to explain the tan oaks to me. What makes that special?
Well, it's not in the Quercus family.
Okay.
And so they're a little bit different. They have really spiny caps on them, or hairy caps on their acorns. And I haven't tried them, so I don't know how different they taste. Do you know anything about them, Clay?
I just know that they were, if you read that book, It Will Live Forever. Have you ever read that?
Nope.
No.
It Will Live Forever is a great book about the native California women and their acorn harvests and how they process them and ate them.
Well, that sounds great.
It's a cool book, and it's a historic look at the Northern California tribes, I believe.
Did they process them in pits, Clay?
They process them, I'm assuming, the same way in all of California. Like you kind of grind them down in like a big mortar and pestle, and then oddly enough,
a leach pit, though? Is that how they did it?
No, they would leach right on the sand, which is like crazy, because
Makes
you would
sense.
think that you would get sand in it, but they ground it into such fine flour that they could actually kind of dab it off with get no sand in the meal. And but yeah, tan oak is mentioned in that as being like one of the favored trees, because where like you do a lot of hot leaching, right, Jess?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not. I'm a cold leach fan of it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I thought for some reason you did hot leach.
No way.
Okay. Well, see, she is an acorn snob.
Who's doing hot leaching?
Yeah, why do you want to lose every
on.
nutrient available? Come on,
and
Clay.
Flavor.
Yeah.
I hot leach.
Of course you do.
Oh, sorry, Clay.
No, I do cold leach too, but I actually this year at the Great Lakes Foragers Gathering, they did like 50 pounds of hot leach acorns, and then they made acorn pancakes for 300 people, and they were so good. And I was like, I hadn't hot leached in a couple years, and I was like, man, I gotta start hot leaching again. But anyway, so yeah, the tan oak is a species, like you said. It's in the Fagaceae, so it's got it's in the same family as beech and chestnuts and all that stuff. That's why they all share that kind of like spiky cap. And then, but tan oak, Luke, is reportedly, like the best acorn. Like you probably only have, yeah, I don't know. Never tried it. I have no clue. But so do you discriminate, like when you're collecting your acorns? Are you separating them? Are you putting like, I've got these are white oak acorns in this basket, and I got other red oak acorns in this basket?
I do, because I'm OCD like that. So yes, every species gets its own batch. I probably could just throw them all together, but no, I can't do that.
Do you mix the flour afterwards?
No.
Do you ever make blends?
No.
Wow. Okay. All right. Are you the same way with coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
Oh man.
I drink tea.
Okay. All right.
She's an ACORN sommelier.
Yeah. I mean, because sometimes when I roast coffee, I find that they don't work that well by themselves, but they would complement each other rather well. So I make a blend and I'm like, holy crap, this is one of the best blends I've ever made. It just works out that way sometimes. So okay.
Yeah.
No,
I don't think there's enough aromatics in the acorns to really make that much of a difference. But when I'm presenting a dish at a dinner or something, I want to like,
oh yeah,
this is Quercus lobata pasta, and I don't know that people can actually tell differences when they're actually at a dinner and having their meal and whatnot. Maybe some people do. I don't know, but I think it's good to inform and give people the full rundown of what they're eating.
So you said acorn or Quercus lobata pasta, right? So do you have to add flour to that?
I don't. I have a secret recipe with no regular flour.
So it would be a gluten-free pasta.
The gluten-free pasta, and it's one of my favorite and most well-loved dishes that I do. I do a chanterelle ravioli, actually,
wow.
with the acorn pasta. Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
So good.
Well, and it's also the concept there is these two organisms are living symbiotically together and then putting them together in a dish. It's pretty cool. And then sometimes I will find nettle that grows around that same tree, and then there's a great sauce. So I know how much you like nettle, Clay.
Yeah, I love it. Definitely love it.
You mean him, but anyway.
Yeah, but so Jess, you're I see recently you've got a lot of classes that are coming up in Arizona.
I do. The weather is nice right now out in Arizona because nobody wants to go pick saguaro fruit in 120-degree weather in June. So maybe someday I'll do a survival or like, all right, if you guys can survive this class. No, that's no fun. I have a couple classes coming up and just basic introductory edible and medicinal plants of the Sonoran Desert, and just a walk through some of my favorite places that I've grown up. And I just love sharing that area with people because the area gets a lot of tourists or people who've lived there along their whole lives like me, and they don't realize that it's so abundant with food and just amazing plants that it's like, no, this is a desert. How can you find something to eat out here? But no, really, it's more abundant and diverse than actually it is over here in California, I think, in some areas. So
no way.
It's great. The Sonoran Desert is a magical place.
Okay, name a couple species of like your favorite things.
My top favorite thing is saguaro fruit.
Okay.
So saguaro's the big one, with the arms, the tallest cactus out there. Yep, just like that. And of course, all the fruits are at the very, very top, 60 to 100 feet tall, maybe 100, I don't know. Super tall. And
wait, 60? They can actually be 60 feet tall?
Maybe I'm throwing out incorrect numbers, but let me think about size of people. Maybe 30. Maybe 30 is a better number.
Okay, well, that's still pretty dang tall for a cactus.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But very tall. Like, yeah, how are you going to get these? And the birds, they'd fly up there. So you have a lot of elements against you out there. And it's, the hottest, most miserable time of year is when they are ripe. And so I find it a nice, super fun challenge to stock up on saguaro fruit out there at that time of year. But people just go crazy over this fruit when I serve it. They are just like, that is the most amazing tasting thing ever.
Mhm.
It's strawberry, watermelon, just super sweet. Really tasty. Has little crunchy seeds inside that are edible. Yeah, but I could just go on and on about that, but that's
How does one acquire these fruits?
well, it takes either having I use actually a swimming pool cleaning rod thing that's extendable, and I can
Mhm.
use those to knock them off. Or sometimes you're lucky if they'll be on the ground and the animals haven't eaten them, because it's so hot out. The animals are really quick to get everything before people can. But yeah, the pole is even like a painter's pole or something extendable, as long as it doesn't bend too much, is pretty helpful. But I know the native people would take the ribs of the saguaro itself, like the inside skeleton part, and tie them together and to make a similar type of apparatus to knock them off and catch them. Luckily, they don't have too many spines on them.
Oh, they don't have a lot of spines. Okay.
No, unlike prickly pear, which, I mean, if you were trying to catch a prickly pear falling from 30 feet in the sky,
Ouch.
I'm looking for
No.
volunteers. Anybody?
Does that cactus grow in Baja California as well?
No, that is the cardone. That's a different species of cactus.
Okay, because I was going to say, when I hitchhiked down Baja California, and I actually got up one morning and we had got dropped off at this really beautiful beach. It was like probably in the center of Baja California somewhere, and we were like 2 kilometers away from the store. And I got up early in the morning. We had no water, and I walked to the store, and I remember looking at all the turkey vultures, and they were on top of those cactus, and the only thing moving on them was their heads. And they were as I was walking, they were going like this. They're slowly turning, like
Waiting for you
look,
to fall.
yeah. And I didn't know what species of cactus that was. I thought that was a saguaro cactus, but apparently I was wrong. So,
yeah, they look very similar, but they're a bit different.
okay.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that you would cover stuff like that in your class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. So what other things are you collecting? Like when we think of when I think of a desert, I'm thinking of cactus. I'm thinking pine nuts,
Sand and sidewinders, maybe a tumbleweed or two.
Yeah. So you said it's very abundant. You said more biodiverse than the LA region.
Yeah.
So what, like, blow our minds?
Let's see. Some of my other favorite things are wolfberries, and wolfberries are related to goji berries, and lots of those grow out there. There's the desert hackberry, and I love those. Those are fantastic. They taste like little Skittles. And jojoba beans, I like to collect a lot of those. And of course, mesquite beans are fantastic. So versatile in the kitchen. I make a lot of different things with mesquite flour. And also, let's see, there's palo verde beans. Lots of legumes. Or the three main legumes out there are the palo verde, the mesquite, and the ironwood. And ironwood is fantastic. Those beans are amazing. Taste kind of like peanuts. They're really nice, roasted, really tasty. Yeah, let's see. Barrel cactus fruit. Of course, prickly pear is always, everybody loves that. Choya fruit.
What do you do with choya?
I cook them up as like a vegetable, kind of like
Okay.
an okra type vegetable.
Yeah, they are kind of like snotty, right?
Yeah, pretty much all cactus are.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as far as I don't know a cactus that isn't slimy.
Oh, well, I meant like I guess like in particular, the one experience I've had with choya was like kind of it being like I don't know, like snotty, like it just seemed like bleh, like really mucilaginous.
Well, you've had nopales then, right?
Yeah, I've had nopales and prickly pear is native to Michigan. Um,
Ah,
but we have a separate species from you guys. We have like the northern or eastern prickly pear, Opuntia humifusa.
okay.
And that thing, yeah, I've eaten it, and I actually have some in my garden.
Mm.
And it is, yeah, it's pretty slimy. But choya was like that times a million, I thought.
Yeah, they can be slimy.
What cactuses do people typically make tacos out of? I've seen cactus tacos before.
That's the nopales, the
Yeah.
prickly pear. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the young leaf.
Speaking of that, Luke, just to interject here, prickly pear, there is tons of it at Garden of the Gods in Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah, tons of prickly pear.
I've seen prickly pear around here before, Clay.
Oh,
It's
okay,
just
cool.
not super common, but every once in a while you'll see it in a random place, like a sandy place next to a barn
Mhm.
or something, and you're like, whoa, wait, what's that? Why's that there?
Yeah, it's pretty weird. That was one of the most common complaints that the Lewis and Clark expedition had about traversing was all the prickly pear and little tiny, I think they were like barrel cactus, like little barrel cactus. And a lot of people don't think of the Great Plains as housing that stuff, but apparently they were spending almost every single night pulling thorns and spines out of their moccasins.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Arizona is pretty cool. Now, when you go to forage in a place like Arizona, are you ambling around or are you like hugging like a river corridor? Or
All of the above.
okay.
Yeah. The rivers and the creeks and streams, all, those are definitely going to have a lot of stuff as well. A lot of your riparian things, like cattail and even elderberries and willows and cottonwoods, stuff like that. But yeah, just all the other, going out where it's a little bit drier, there's going to be more of the cactus and legumes and stuff. But yeah, all over the place.
Fascinating. What is your favorite medicine that you were able to gather from the Arizona landscape?
That would be, we call it creosote. Out in California, they call it chaparral, even though that's a name of a region or a bioregion. But Laurea tridentata is the Latin name. And it's a just wonderfully aromatic plant. And it is what makes the desert smell like desert rain. So it's that really fresh and just smell of rain, basically. You can, even when it's dry, you can just go up to it and just smell it. It's very resinous and just, you'll be like, oh, wow, that smells like it just rained. And so I used that, and that's a fantastic all-purpose topical herb. So I'll make salves out of it. And so it's great for, antifungal, antibacterial. It helps to speed up healing, and also reduces scarring as well. So yeah, it's very bitter. So, and I know people have used it internally. I would do that with caution. There is some few reports of it being a liver toxin, but I'm a little skeptical on that. But it's just it's bitter anyways. I wouldn't want to drink too much of it.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen one of those gray ghost deer when you're out there? So I just have to mention, this is partly a hunting podcast. So I know that you are not for that, but
well, I have news for you, Clay.
Ooh, what's your news?
I have
hunted.
Switched sides. No, I haven't hunted yet, but my fiance is a hunter, and so things are changing.
Oh, no way. Okay.
I love
Fascinating.
it.
So how do you feel about that change?
Well, I think it's a change that's now this is getting okay. All my vegan people, don't listen. I think this is a change that's needed to happen. It's weird how you get stuck into ideals of food and what you think is right and whatnot, but I have introduced some meat into my diet in the last couple years, and I wouldn't say it's been a huge change as far as my health wise or energy or anything like that, but I do feel more satiated, more balanced.
Wow.
And less hungry all the time.
Welcome.
I was vegan for like almost 15 years.
So one thing I can say, and I can attest to, is I think factory farms are absolutely disgusting. Clay and I were talking, what was it, our session we did last week about chickens and all that kind of stuff. That's one of the most disgusting things in the world. And we went on and rambled about it, but they're gross. It's gross. I wouldn't want to eat it either. So I'm totally with you on that. If I could completely sustain my diet on wild game, I totally would. A lot of our meat comes from that, or either something we raise ourselves. It's all ethical choices versus that. So I'm with you on that. As far as like any vegan, I side with them on the side of ethics. But when it comes down to my meat, I know that it has lived, and even Clay, most of it, wild animals, they've lived the best life that they could possibly live up until that moment of death. And it's not like it's taken for granted at all either. So that's just something to mention for all your vegan people out there, because we make a conscious choice to do it, but at the same time, as long as people understand that when we do it, there is a reverence for that animal, and we do it because it's a way better and more sustainable alternative to factory farms.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So what does your fiance hunt?
Turkey and
Elk.
the doves in his backyard. He I don't know. This is
you don't have to.
He's gonna listen. So
well,
it's Arizona, so I hope there's elk.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I hope there's elk.
But
I hope there's mule deer in there. I hope there's
ferment
bears
yet.
in there.
Yeah.
Is that so? Have you ever seen an elk in the?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so they're out there just like eating cactus and.
They're in the mountains.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people don't realize we actually have mountains and forests in Arizona.
No, I knew that. Yeah.
But yeah, no, up in the mountains we see elk all the time. And growing up, we would go up into the mountains and just drive around looking for elk and deer, because my dad used to be a hunter, so we would just go looking for them to check them out.
Now the animal that got me talking about meat was the coos deer. Have you ever seen that?
That's southern, yeah.
Wouldn't that be in Arizona, or am I wrong?
Southern Arizona, yep.
Okay.
on the border of Mexico.
Yeah,
so
I'm not down there very much. I'm more like Phoenix area.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Phoenix.
the Coues deer though is a really cool thing, and you should check it out. I mean, I've never seen one in real life, but I would totally want to. They're real small deer, and they're
It's a
like
species of whitetail.
yeah,
They're in the
it's
same
subspecies, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they look identical to an actual like a Midwest whitetail, just dwarfed.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Pretty cool. So like, yeah, we don't have to get into that, but
Yeah. But yeah, so you're also doing. I had said before that I wanted to talk to you about Mexico.
Hmm.
So you do these trips to Mexico where you take people out on these retreats, and you talk to them about plants, and then you guys and mushrooms of Mexico, and then it culminates in a ceremony.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about these this event, and how do people get involved? A, and then B, how does that received? How does it go over? Because that sounds intense.
Oh, yes. Definitely intense. Our group is usually pretty selected with folks that either have been coming to my classes and I know them, or they're friends of friends that are looking for a certain type of experience. And it's, we're really focused on the whole picture, from the food to the culture to the nature, mushrooms, the herbal, the medicinal herbs out there, and just it's very educational. It's an educational adventure. So you really get a sense of what it's like there. And I have a lot of connections with the locals, and they, they're our guides, and we are eating in their kitchens, and really fantastic food that's, I've never had food so good. And then at the end, the group really gets to build some really strong bonds with each other. We've shared quite an adventure, and then we embark on a ceremony, and starts with a sweat lodge, and then partake in some mushrooms and enjoy the rest of the day. Some people, and it's very flexible to where, if some people need some time in nature, they're welcome to do that. If they're more comfortable going back to their room, they can do that as well. And then I'm just there to support and be there for the journeyers. And the feedback I've heard from folks is just, it's life-changing, and really getting to see a different perspective in life, and maybe reflect on their own journeys, or some, where some things just click differently. And it's a very transformative experience for most of the folks that go there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And not to get like too technical here, but do you happen to know what species of mushroom they're imbibing in?
Psilocybe zapotecorum.
Oh, wow. You do know. Okay.
I do know. I would absolutely know. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Very
amazing.
important.
So is this the same one that like you know who Maria Sabina was?
Yes.
Is that like this? That's her mushroom? Wow.
I believe there's a few different species that she was using, but this one grows right there in the hills. We're not too far from where she lived, so it's all in that same zone.
Okay. Luke, do you know who Maria Sabina was?
Yes, I've seen the documentary on Netflix, I do believe.
I didn't know there was a documentary.
Yeah, to where they talk about her and the rituals that she used to perform, or ceremonies, not rituals, but ceremonies with people, and help heal them through their life and their journey. Yeah. And she did it for like ever.
Yes, from like when she was like 9 years
Yeah,
old.
yeah, until she was like 89 or 90 something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, pretty spectacular woman from the sounds of it. Um, and apparently just sat there, she just give people mushrooms and then just kind of just sit there in silence, just staring at you.
We'll guide them. She would guide them,
Yeah,
help guide
yeah,
them
yeah,
through the
yeah. I
journey.
know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm just kind of like, like, could you imagine just being like given an unspecified, like everybody's like all about numbers nowadays. I got to take this many grams. She just gives you just like this wad of mushrooms and
Well,
just like,
that's part of what we experience down there.
okay,
And they are served on a leaf, and there's several different options, and you pick whichever grouping. It's like maybe 3, 4, 5 mushrooms. Some of them, there's been times where they're like as long as your arm. They're
whoa.
massive. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the brave folks go for something like that. But yeah, there's no measurements. There's just like, oh, the guide's just like, well, here, this looks good for you. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah,
so this summer I went out and went to a local nature preserve, and I hadn't done that in years, and I had somehow done that thing where like I convinced myself that A, I didn't need it, B, it was going to be so terrifying and scary, and it's all like ego talk, right? Your ego's just like, oh, you don't need to do it, like
yeah,
I personally think that every adult should, if you're capable and you're not going to go crazy from it, of course, you got to be safe. But I think that everybody, like, I think it's so healthy for our mental well-being. And I went out and I did it. And of course, I it's just like, oh my God, like I had the most amazing experience. I like full clothes, like dipped in a river.
wow.
and and I just felt like such like sigh of relief, and I can only imagine how magical that feeling would be like in Mexico, because like I love Mexico so much.
Yeah, up there in the cloud forest too, it's just magical.
Yeah. So how are you going to be hosting another one of those events?
It's likely.
Okay.
I am starting a doctorate of science program in January, so I'm going to see
Mm.
how my load of work is going to be for how that's going to work. And then we'll see, yeah, if I can schedule in another one for the summertime.
Holy moly. So what is that going to entail then? You're embarking on this like whole big journey. What's the eventual plan?
I just need to know more. Um, well, I love school for one. I love learning. I love just getting really deeper into subjects and really I want to be active in actual science. Like I want to write papers, write journal articles. I want to, be involved in the scientific community.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's that's the goal. Do some research and make an impact out there, help people, change lives, all
So
that.
what do you think you are going to hone in on those? What I mean, what are you going to be studying and writing about?
Mm. Uh, well, the degree is technically integrative health, so
Mhm.
really that can be pretty much anything. But my focus is, bringing all those things like food and medicine and environment and community and the spiritual side as well, bringing
Mhm.
all those things together, and mushrooms as well. Like how do mushrooms play a role in that? And so that's my starting point, and I'm sure it's going to get much more refined as I work with my advisors and really get into it.
Yeah, that's going to be super exciting. As far as like people I know, foragers in the country,
Mhm.
Jess, I'm honest here. You are like one of the most inspiring people in the country to me because like
What?
I'm always like, man, she's doing classes in Mexico. And
Oh,
I'm like, I'm like, man, I'm like a bum compared to her, you know.
Well, I'm living in Southern California trying to support my kids and pay mortgage, so I'm like I have no other choice, honestly.
Yeah, you're being humble. I think that you are super talented, and I'm like, I personally feel like blessed to have uh, met you in my life, and
Aw.
gotten to know you. And I think that it'd be really cool to like have some event in the future where you and your fiance could come. And, you know, maybe we could maybe invite him to pig camp.
Yeah, he would love that. He would absolutely love to do some more hunting.
Yeah,
Because he doesn't have too many hunting buddies. So
We're building
uh,
a community. So
yeah,
that's,
perfect.
yeah.
yeah,
Especially, I feel that what good is knowledge without trying to pass it on, right? So
yeah.
Mm.
Clay takes me under the wing, this little eaglet, and teaches me as much as he can about plants. And in turn, I try and tell him about deer and other hunting stuff. And then in turn, a lot of other foragers, they have the curiosity, but
Mhm.
there's just no one there for them to learn from. So we try and teach as many as we can.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you got coming up next, Jess? Like, what do you, if you had to, you got some time to tell people about like events, like how they can find you, everything like that.
Yeah. Well, my next big thing is going to be in the next couple months. I'm doing all my mushroom classes are going to happen in January, February. I'm doing a little mini course so people can do a whole package of different classes from mushroom hunting to cooking to medicinal mushrooms, um, um, all the identification and all that stuff. So that's coming up. I also do an apprenticeship through my little school program that I've created called the Wild Path School. And so I take on a small group of apprentices each spring and we dive deep and I teach them everything I know. We go out into the field several times a month. We have online lectures as well and group projects and stuff like that. So I'm excited for that. That's coming up. And yeah, those are the two big ones. But yeah, you can find me at thewildpathschool.org. No, sorry, thewildpath.org. I should put that in there, but I don't know, maybe I'll add another one and it'll
Mhm.
forward over to there. Anyways, also jstarwood.com is my main website, and I'm on Instagram at jess.starwood.
I tell you what, your emails that I get from the Wild Path,
Oh,
that's another one of those things where I open it and I'm like, my God, this is beautiful. I'm
I
like,
didn't know you
man,
got it. I
yeah,
didn't know you
yeah,
were subscribed. Cool.
yeah. I get your newsletter, and I'm always like, man, what did she like hire like a professional like magazine company to create this thing?
The
I
graphic design
literally do
background.
everything.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Come
Yeah,
on, Clay. We need to start an
yeah,
email, by the way. We need a
yeah.
newsletter.
I mean, I have a newsletter on my website, but it's like so ghetto in comparison.
I can
Oh.
believe that.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that, Jess, that you want to say? Like, get out there. I know that you love giving people like just awesome words of advice and things. So I want to give you
Uh,
some space.
yeah. Well, I feel that nature holds the secrets to anything that we find ourselves challenged with in life. And I've been running into a lot of folks with depression and anxiety and a lot of that lately. And I know people are jumping to mushrooms to try and fix everything as a magic bullet, but
Mhm.
you know, start with just going for walks, going outside, spending as much time as you can in nature. And I think that's a big part of the problem these days where people feel disconnected. disoriented and what they're doing with their lives and whatnot. But go camping for the weekend, go take a hike, go, just check out the neighborhood park. Just makes a world of difference, and I see that in my teenage daughters too. And as they're getting older and screens and busy lives are taking over, I see a difference when it's like, hey, let's go for a walk down the street, and turns a bad day around pretty quick.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're just not built for the environment that we live in currently. I mean, modern day life is such a detriment to our health. I couldn't agree with you more on that. And you're absolutely right. Build a connection with nature. Nature is going to heal you. It's where we came from.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Sit in a tree for 12 hours, right, Luke?
Yeah.
Just joking.
I connected with nature, and I even brought some of it home with me. I have a multiflora thorn right here in my finger. And I've been picking at it for the past hour.
Yeah. Jess, Luke was out trying to. He's a whitetail crazy person, and so he was out all day sitting in a tree, and I'm just like, oh, mind blown like that. I
got down and moved, Clay. It wasn't like I was in the same tree all day. Although it was about the 2:30ish point throughout the day. So sunset was at like 4:49 or something like that. So at like 2:30, I'm like, is it over yet? Can it just be over? Like, I need to get down. I need to move. I can't do this anymore. And then as soon as the sunlight started like fading, and then just that like golden lights like started, where you get the sunset, the colors coming through the trees, and I was like, oh wait a minute, this is so much better. This is what I needed. It was just that high sun that was just driving me crazy. There was no shadows, no nothing. And then I was good.
Well, yeah. Well, I hope to never have to endure that in my life.
You're going to. You will. I will make you. I will make you.
Well, if I get a deer, that might be worth it, maybe.
Absolutely. We'll make it happen. Jess, it was awesome meeting you. Awesome talking to you. Always exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, Jess, I really hope that we can invite you back on and talk about your science in the future.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's just the beginning of the journey here.
Awesome. I'm so excited for you. Well, thank you again for coming on and talking to us. It's always a pleasure.
All right. Absolutely. Anytime.
And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Publicly Challenged podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to. Also, if you could leave a review, that would help us out. And you can check us out on Instagram or at publiclychallenged.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the show.